Hello everyone, I'm Zhonghuan Chen. I'm happy to come here to share our research. Operation Chimera, APT operation targets semiconductor vendors. My colleague, Indy Lin, Sean Zhang, and I will show the APT group called Chimera, which is discovered in 2018 and 2019. Let's briefly introduce ourselves. I'm CK Chen. I'm a senior researcher at Cycraft. Whilst in university studying for my PhD degree, I played the CTF and founded a CTF team called Bamboo Fox. And we joined the DevCon finals in 2016 and 2018. And currently I just retired. I'm also met the review board at the HICOM and HITB. So I'm an active member in the security community. In Taiwan community, I also joined the CH-Root, which is the best hacker group in Taiwan. My partner, Sean Zhang, who is a security researcher at Cycraft, and he also founded a local hacker group called UCCU Hackers. And Indy Lin is also the security researcher at Cycraft, and he's a reverse engineer hobbyist and learning how to reverse from his high school and playing CTF. He also presents a lot of research in HICOM and RUCOM. Our company, Cycraft, is a startup company in Taiwan, and now we have a branch in Singapore and Japan. We are focused on using AI to solve the security problem. Currently, we have 3 products: the Sensor, which is used for the threat hunting, and the Chimera, or APT investigator, always use this system to do an APT investigate. And the CyberTotal, a threat intelligence platform. So today's our research have a lot of help from these 3 products. Our company also joined the MITRE ATT and CK evaluation in last year and compete with the top vendors in the world and get a nice result. If you are interested about that, you can come to see our blog in this URL. Okay. So let's start today's talk. So this is today's outline. We will give the introduction first to give an overview about Taiwan semiconductor ecosystem and to illustrate the threat actor Chimera. And then we will move to case study to understand the activities of the hacker. Next, we will go deeper to the threat actor's digital arsenal, which show how to reverse and the technical used by the malware. We will also show other incidents in Taiwan which may relate it to Chimera. In the end, we will make a brief conclusion to give a takeaway to the audience. As Taiwan has a special political position, we encounter a lot of cyber attack every year. In 2018, we have the Tsmc Ransomware. The Tsmc is one of the largest enterprise in semiconductor industry in Taiwan or even in the world. And he has been hit by WannaCry and hold down their product line for 2 days and cost them 170 million. In last year, Kaspersky has discovered the Shadow Hammer, which is a supply chain attack to ASUS. And in this year, in May, we have a CPC attacked by a Colluck ransomware. The CPC is an energy sector and has a lot of gas stations. So when this attack happens, a lot of gas station is out of service. So it's a serious attack to the critical infrastructure. Among them, the semiconductor is most catch our eyes. Even so, Taiwan is a very small country. We have taken an important role in the semiconductor landscape. With our government pay a lot of resources to develop this industry, we have established ourselves as a leading player in the semiconductor industry. And we have some well-known leaders, including TSMC and MTK. So in 2018 and 2019, both the market sharing and the wafer capacity, we are in the leadership in the world. And according to Taiwan News report, we are the largest and fast-growing semiconductor equipment maker, which make a revenue about 12 billion. So once attack to this vendor will have very serious impact. First, because this vendor take a lot of part to Taiwan's economy. So attack to these vendors like TSMC will make a serious impact to Taiwan's economy. And it will also affect the entire global supply chain. In this report, we mostly focus on IT security. Compared to the OT security, for example, make a production line hold down will immediately show the damage. The attack to the IT, for example, steal the intelligent property, will not show the damage immediately. But however, it will have a long-term and serious impact to the enterprise. So we should take care of both the OT and IT security. Because our company, Semiconductor, is a Taiwan local security company, so we have a very high visibility in the semiconductor industry in Taiwan. And between 2018 and 2019, we have discovered several attacks to these vendors. And the victims are mostly located at Hsinchu Science Park. Hsinchu Science Park is a center of Taiwan high-tech industry, and especially for the semiconductor vendors. We have first published this report in this year about April. And after we publish our report, we receive a lot of feedback from other security researchers, other vendors, and our friends, which reveal that, in fact, there are more than 7 vendors in Taiwan and Europe were also being attacked by the actor. So we will say this attack is very intensive. The attacker have the ability to launch a large-scale attack to many vendors at the same time. And this APT group is not choose their victim randomly, and they choose their victim precisely and very well coordinated. Aside from the vendor themselves, the attacker also attack their subsidiaries and competitors. So let's show the trend that from the old time, the attacker only attack the enterprise themselves, which is a single point attack. And currently we move to the supply chain attack. And for now, in this case, what we see is the attack on the entire industry survey. And in all of these attacks, the tactics were similar. So we believe that this attack is conducted by the same threat actor. And their target is, of course, the semiconductor vendors. The malware they use is the merge by different open source tool and commercial tool, like a Dumper, Mimikatz, and Cobstrap. So that's why we named this actor Chimera. Just like Chimera is merged from a different animal, this attack merge a different malware and insert their customized code to make their own malware. In order to avoid attribution, the attack uses C2 hosted in public cloud, like the Google App Engine and Azure. The goal of the attacker is different from the other attack who want to steal the credit card information, the user information. In this attack, the threat actor focuses on steal documents, source code, and SDK of chip-related project. So we can see the the motivation of the attacker is to steal the intelligent property. So we start our investigation during the 2018 and 2019, and we take the investigation in more than 3 vendors and analyze more than 30,000 endpoints. Today, we will show 3 case studies from 3 vendors. And we find these 3 vendors as case study. The first reason is because they are all take the leading global position in their own market segment. And the other reason is that because we get into investigation at a different time point, so the analytical perspective of the attack campaign was different. For the A company, who is our long-term partner, so we regularly monitor their activities, which allow us to have a more detail about attackers' activities. And also we can track in to the root cause. So in this case study, we want to show you the activities that attackers do and how to track to the root cause. For the B company, it's a one-time IR service. So when we get into investigation, the attack is already been done for a long time. So we cannot recover everything back. But however, we can highlight the threat actors' long-term activities and discover what kind of data was leaked and stolen by the attacker, which can help us to understand the attacker's mission and motivation. And the C company is also our long-term partner. And the different point is that their security team has very high security ability. So they can help us to deeply investigate and get a lot of free feedback from them. So this gives us more information and help us to profile the threat actors. So next, we will show the case study and turn to the John to introduce and explain each of the 3 case studies.
Thanks, CK. I'm John. I will introduce 2 case studies in this session. So let's start. And before we start the case study, I just want to mention every machine and username are de-identified, not original name. So the first company we want to use we call A company, A case study. And in the case study A, is our long-term partner, and we discover and stop the threat actor in a very short time. And we found there's a 50 endpoint and 6 user account were compromised. And the right-hand side is our investigation graph, which is AI generated. It tells us what endpoint has been compromised and the compromised endpoint when the threat actor later went to this endpoint. And the first malware we found in this environment is a Cobalt Strike beacon, and the Cobalt Strike beacon pretend as a Google update. And then we found this file in the 2 machines, but they are same malware, but they have a different hash. So the threat actor has customized their backdoor for a different endpoint. So we can find any file hash match on the files total. Just like previously mentioned, the threat actor use a backdoor pretend as a Google update. So they also choose the Google Cloud Platform as their C2 communication. But there's an interesting point is the first day, the first Cobalt Strike beacon, they use the Google Cloud Platform. But the second day, they get a new endpoint, they deploy the new Cobalt Strike beacon. They change the hosting server. They choose another one cloud service for the C2 communication. But there's a same threat actor. In our point of view, is the threat actor is a group. So there's a multiple attack in the group. So everyone has their preferred cloud service. So they change the cloud service. And we found there's two remote execution tool in the environment, which is the schedule task and the WNIC. The threat uses a schedule task to use to copy a file and the execution the backdoor, and they use the WNIC to check the target endpoint has an internet connection. So why they just choose one of them to do the data movement? Because the WNIC can get STD out information, so this can get the output information to check the status, and they can use a cache credential in the environment. So they use the WNIC to do this kind of goal. And after we finding there's a schedule task and the WNIC, so we can draw a simple investigation graph like this. So there's one server called server Lauren has used a schedule task and the WNIC data movement to these three endpoints. And this three endpoints, one of them is a domain controller. So we find there's a server Lauren has a remote execute IR tool collect the domain controller data. So what data they collect is registry tree and the system ntds.dit file. So why the threat actor want to collect these two files is because the threat actor collects two files can get the Windows AD information. The ntds.dit can store the encrypted Windows AD username, password, email account, something like this. So they collect the file, but they still need a decryption key. So the decryption key is stored in the Windows registry. So that's why the threat actor need to collect two files. So, and they use the WinIR and pretend as rename as a file name as a recordtv.ms, which is a digital file name. So based on finding and our AI investigation tell us there's a NB clear use a schedule task deploy a Google update to the server Lauren. So we trace back into a NB clear. So NB clear timeline tell us before the schedule task execution 6 minutes ago that there's a RDP logon successfully from the IP1. So we think it is a possibility is a higher root cause about this attack. And we notice after the RDP logon, they use this user account to do a system reconnaissance and do the schedule task to remote deploy the malware. So we notice the threat actor has a data exfiltration for some file, like the reconnaissance result, and they use a 1 byte modified IR file and rename as a digit file name like recordtv.ms as jucheck.exe, and we found this file hash in the multiple case study. So we think it is the same threat actor, and based on the previous technique and the file, the WinIR legit file they store, so we think it is a signature tactic of Operation Chimera. And then we trace back the RDP IP, so we notice it's unscanned host, and which is a VPN VPN server. So VPN server also can be compromised. Your VPN account cannot be the last line of your defense. And above are the first case study, and the second case study is becoming, and just like previously mentioned, becoming is IR service company. We're doing IR service for this company. So just quick overview, the status is becoming has been compromised very long time, and due to we have a friend C company, and the C company has a business cooperation with B company. So because due to the business cooperation, so they had some network interactive. So C company discovered some security anomaly activities from B company. So they introduced us to do the investigation. So when we do a IR service, we summarize the time period starting 2018 to 2019, and we found in big study we found the threat user PowerShell, but still saying the user PowerShell execute the CobbleStrike beacon and migrate the CobbleStrike backdoor to the XVC host. But this most important thing is we find in the PowerShell CobbleStrike beacon in the 10 endpoint, but they have included 2 domain controller. It's very serious. And just like the previous APT attack, the threat use the cloud service to do the C2 communication. So they use a Google Cloud Platform. In this time, they also use Microsoft Azure Cloud Service. So based on the previous, because becoming has been seriously hacked, so it's very difficult to manually investigation. So the following screenshot is our AI generated cyber situation graph. So it tells us what endpoint the endpoint has been compromised, and this endpoint has connection to the something unmanaged which we didn't scan. So it tells our IR team can do some investigation on this endpoint to check the compromised scope. So starting the 2018 November, the threat has get in the environment, and starting they come back quarterly best to collect the new data they want. So every quarter they will come back to here to get some new file, but they probably they need to do some report to their boss or their buyer. Until 2019 November, the threat deployed one new weapon. Before that, the threat the compromised scope didn't get extended. So until 2019 November, they deployed a new malware, and 2019 December, they extended the compromised scope. So which means the previous deployed malware has some it's work for them. So based on our investigation, we made an inventory about the leaked data. So following the threat actor targeting is very clearly. The threat actor collect the product roadmap, the backup of the workspace, and the chip and SDK information, and just their target is about the semiconductor intelligence property. So we assume there's a business spy or state-sponsored attack. Some country won't benefit their certain industry. But which one we are not sure, but we're very sure is attacker intent is stealing the intelligence property. So I will move on to we will turn to our colleague CK will introduce a case study C. So CK.
Okay, thanks for John. And next, I will continue to our case study about a C company. And company C is our long-term partner and have a very high security skill. There is a principle in our company that when we conduct our investigation, we will try to minimize the data and files that we needed from the victim's environment. This is for protection to victims' privacy and confidential. So if the blue team in the victim organization has very skillful, they can help us to get deeper. So in this case, when we finish our first investigation, we turn the result to them, and the blue team help us to find out more to profile the threat actors. So from the experience of this case, there's a requirement that even though the security service are outsourcing, your blue team must have a very high skill so that you can interact with the outsourced vendors. Okay, in this case, we first find a malware we call it 3-in-1 cloud storage tool that uses G Drive, Dropbox, and OneDrive to upload the steal file. And their hash is this here. And when we discover it, this one has no recording BT. And because this malware uses the web-based API to transfer file, so it's able to bypass level 7 firewall. We also have discovered the other cloud storage tool that uses OpenLoad. And because we have monitored some command used by the hacker, and in this command we can find the authentication token and upload the file path. So we can find some file upload by the hacker, and also we find some file that in victim environment that is possible to be leaked by the hacker. And one of the files is like that. So this file is like the cheat sheet of the threat actor, and they may follow the check tree to export the NTDS. So in fact, we also monitor the similar activities. And follow the link here, we can find a very famous security forums in China. So this can give us some hint about the campaign. So we can guess that the campaign has at least one member understanding Chinese. And we also make a profile about the active time of the actor. So we find that they are most active in the September in 2019. And their working hour is from the morning 8:30 to the night 8:30. From this time period, we can guess the attacker's time zone is located in UTC +8. And their working day is Monday to Friday and most busy in Wednesday. And sometimes, if some event or some mission is needed, they may also work at Saturday. So from this information, we can guess the campaign is at the same time zone to Taiwan. Okay. So with the help of the blue team of our partner, we have more information, more profile about this campaign. Okay. So next, we will go deeper about the threat actors' digital arsenal. And Indy will show you the malware and the technical use by this malware. Okay, so that's your turn, Indy.
Hi, I'm Indy, reverse engineer from Cycraft. Now, I'm going to introduce actors' digital arsenal. We have observed 4 main tools they used to carry out the attack. The first we are going to talk about is Cobalt Strike Beacon. Cobalt Strike is a commercial red team operation framework. They use Cobalt Strike beacon as their primary backdoor in these intrusions. For the persistency, they overwrite Google Chrome update utility with their Cobalt Strike beacon. Thus, there is no any new auto-run entry was created, so it will lower the chance to be caught. We found this backdoor on several companies, so we linked the intrusion events together. Our product detected some suspicious memory block. The interesting part is that it is a PE file and also a shellcode. Cobalt Strike Beacon and Metasploited Meterpreter both use this technique, the hybrid payload. This technique is to embed shellcode into the PE file header. The PE magic non-header MZ could be decoded as valid instructions, and these instructions will work fine in most of context. So you can ignore these instructions and append shellcode after it. The shellcode will locate its address and execute the reflective loader to load PE image in memory. Cobalt Strike uses a special strategy to inject payload into other processes. First, Cobalt Strike will spawn a new process or choose a target process. Then, inject the shellcode into the target process. We call it stager. The real payload will be transferred through namepipe and executed by stager. This strategy will bypass some sandbox or emulation-based scanning. Here is the WinRAR. It is a popular commercial compression software. It was used in this operation. The actor used rar.exe to compress and encrypt the files they stole. They try to ambiguate the program with existing file path. The reason why we mention this file is different from the original one. We grabbed this old version of WinRAR and compared it with the one hacker used. We found the difference part was located in code section, and such patch may lead the program to crash. We have two hypotheses. First, is the actor changed the byte intentionally to make file hash different. So, hash-based detection will not find this file is RAR. If your organization does not use WinRAR, the file may be detected and trigger some investigation. Second hypothesis, it is just a bit flip during copy. Judged by the age of file, it is highly possible at that time. We are going to talk about the most interesting malware used in this operation, the skeleton key. We found a unique malware that made with two open source hacking tools, Dumpert and Mimikatz. I believe everyone here had heard about Mimikatz. It is a well-known hacking tool to dump credentials from memory, but it has more capability, like bypass group policy and spawn command line prompt, task manager, or registry editor. Maybe you don't know Dumpert. It was made by a security company called Outflank. It is a proof of concept program to use direct system call on Windows. Unlike Linux, we can't directly use system call in shellcode because Windows system call numbers changed from release to release. The only stable interface is export functions from the shared libraries. That is why Windows shellcode must rely on them, and always begins with locating functions in memory by traverse PEB, loader data, and PE structures. So, how do Dumpert doing it? First, it uses RTL get version to determine which version of Windows you are using. and select different embedded system call functions depending on it. After that, you can bypass any user space hook and doing anything you want without trigger or alert or get blocked. For the one who don't know what skeleton key is, skeleton key is an APT malware discovered by Dell SecureWorks in 2015. It will implant a backdoor password to domain controller in an Active Directory environment. Then, attacker can authenticate as any user as they want with the backdoor password. But the user must be an existed valid user. Meanwhile, original password was not affected. Any other wrong password still will be rejected. So, how does skeleton key do that? It will alter the authentication flow by hooking some crypto functions in lsas.exe. Although original skeleton key malware was never released publicly, author of Mimicut still made his own implementation. Skeleton key is a very powerful weapon against Active Directory because you don't need to dump admin credentials for lateral movement. If you use administrator credential to access endpoints in a domain, you may trigger a lot of alerts. But if you log in with normal users, the situation will be different. It will leave on nearly no clue, only bunches of logon success events, and most administrator or investigator will ignore normal user logon events easily. And skeleton key cannot be removed without reboot. It will be painful to reboot a domain controller because you may break your organization's daily routine. We also observed some other APT attacks that using modified version of Mimicut against Taiwan government agencies. Next, we are going to introduce the new finding after the white paper published. We found Winty backdoor was used in this operation. At the first time, judged by command line event log and the program usage, we thought that was a network probing tool. But after detailed analysis, we found that it is actually a Winty backdoor because of the magic number used by the Winty backdoors protocol. So that was our finding about Operation Chimera. Now I'm going to share some recent APT events in Taiwan. As we mentioned at the beginning, Taiwan's national gasoline company was hit by a new ransomware called CodeLog. It was based on an open source ransomware called EDA2. Investigation Bureau found that CodeStrike and some suspicious activity in their domain controller. They say this event was related to Winty Group. Also, we had monitored several attacks against Taiwan government agencies using skeleton key, but with different backdoor password. They use a modified version of Mimicut, executed in memory only. We think skeleton key might be a new trend in the near future. Now, CK will make a conclusion for us about this talk.
In the end, let me quickly to give some conclusion. Here is some takeaway. In this talk, we disclosure a large-scale APT attack targeting semiconductor vendors, and there are more than 7 vendors are compromised. And these vendors are in Taiwan and Europe. The attacker has precisely attacks. They are not only targeting leading semiconductor vendors, but also attack their subsidiaries, partners, and competitors. different from other APT group, their goal is to steal the intelligent properties, like the document, source code, and SDK, which will make a long-term impact to the victim enterprise. From this motivate, we may guess that attacker is a business competitor or a stand sponsor to enhance their semiconductor industry. We have found some IOC in the appendix, so if you want to find some IOC, you can reference to the appendix in this slide. And from technical part, the attacker widely utilize some open source tool and general tools, so it's hard to make the attribution. And they also like to merge different kind of malware to make their own malware. And in the two shared case study, their AD and VPN are compromised. So, which show that the enterprise should consider the resilience of their IT system and avoid to relying on a single security service. We also discovered the attacker used the skeleton key, which is rarely used but very powerful weapon for the attacker, and which makes adversaries log in like a normal user to achieve the persistent and defense and evasion. So in the end, I would like to say that no system is safe, so we need to regularly to do the threat hunting and shorten the mean time to detect and mean time to response. And thank you for your listening, and welcome for your questions.